Think you know the Bible? Think again. Tune in as Rabbi Bentzi Epstein and Tom Levine reveal the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary in Breakneck Through the Bible by Torch Dallas. Each episode may cover just a few verses, but don't let that fool you. Get ready to learn the Bible at a breakneck pace.
You know, we have been moving along at a breakneck pace.
Yeah, that's very fast.
through the Chumash, and there's the question: is the Chumash broader than just the moral rules for Jews? Does it pertain to non-Jews as well?
Sure. The Torah is a guidebook, right? The law was given for the Jewish people, right, to an exemplary living, right, that we became commanded to and we accepted upon themselves. The rest of the world also should learn morals and ethics from it, not as Jews, but as regular people. And in reality, the 7 Noahide laws that the entire world is obligated to live by are actually also included in the Torah.
And what are tell me what the genesis of the 7 Noahide laws. They're a subset of the 613 mitzvahs, or different? Or
so there is commonality, but the way that they have to do them could be slightly different, right? So it's 7 Noahide laws. And in fact, they're called the 7 Noahide laws. That comes from Noah, which we just finished reading his parsha, right? And in fact, in the Stone Chumash on page 53, in the later editions, it has a box where it actually has the 7 Noahide laws. Now, these 7 Noahide laws, in reality, are actually commanded. Were given 6 of the 7 were given to Adam in Genesis.
To do what with?
That the entire world had to live by this code. Right? The entire world was obligated in these 6 commandments. They're called the 7 Noahide laws because the 7th was given to Noah after the flood. And the 7th one was don't eat a limb from a live animal. Now remember, human beings before the flood could not kill an animal to eat. They could kill it for clothing, shelter, right? Those types of things, they could kill it, but not for eating. We were not given permission to be able to kill it for eating.
Once they killed it for a legitimate purpose,
right?
Could they then eat it?
So the answer is Rashi says yes.
Okay, interesting.
Right, and that's, I would need a new belt every day, I guess.
That fur coat for your wife becomes very disposable.
Or I guess as we eat the meat, we need larger and larger belts.
Okay, but so Adam was given these 6
Noahide laws. They were given the 6 laws, right? And the 7th.
But was he not given the 613? I mean, did he?
He knew the 613. He actually kept the commandments, but he was not obligated to keep the commandments. Meaning he only became obligated to keep the commandments, right? We as a Jewish people became obligated at Mount Sinai, right? When the entire Jewish people accepted them lock, stock, and barrel.
Yeah.
And that's when became, but we see that the patriarchs, matriarchs kept them. That actually is a verse in the Torah. I think it's Genesis 26, when God tells Noah that he is going to, Isaac, right? And he says that God says to Isaac, I'm going to give you everything, right? It's Genesis chapter 26. And it says, and God appears and don't go down to Egypt, dwell in the land that I'm going to tell you, dwell in this land and be with you and I'll bless you. Because to you and your children I gave all these lands, and I have upheld the swearing that I swore to your forefather Abraham. And I'll make your children like the stars in the heavens, and I'll give to your children all these lands, and all the nations of the world will bless themselves by you. Why? And so chapter 26, verse 5, page 129 in your stone Chumash, it says, because Abraham obeyed my voice and observed my safeguards, my commandments, my decrees, and my Torahs. Right? So the Torah here makes it very clear, right, that Abraham, is God saying to Isaac, I'm giving you everything because Abraham kept my commandments, kept my Torahs. So we see that Abraham already kept them.
And the fact that you're pluralizing Torahs, is that reference to the written and oral?
And oral law, yeah. Right?
Even though the oral had not been, well, I guess neither had the written for that matter.
Correct, had been given yet, right? But they somehow knew it, right? And how did they know it, right? So they were just so spiritually great people, they could look into the world and understand what they were supposed to do, right? Like that was something that they looked and understood it. So the world was given at inception. When God created Adam, he says, hey, you're going to live in my world. There's 6 laws you got to keep. You have to keep. No matter what, Jew, non-Jew, there was no Jews at that point in time. And the entire mankind has to keep it. Okay? And so these 6 laws were given to them. The 7th and final one for mankind was not even a limb from a live animal that was given to Noah and Noah's times. And so that is why they called the 7 Noahide laws, because now they had 7 laws to keep.
So do we learn from this, Rabbi, that a non-Jew has a share in the world to come, can go to heaven by keeping the 7 laws?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, that's the only religion in the world that believes that.
It means that somebody who doesn't follow their religion,
yeah,
that you're going to get to heaven. Correct. We believe in a heaven. There are many good Christians, Muslims, et cetera, et cetera. They are in the heaven, right? They get to what we call Olam Haba, the world to come, right? Because they get that. It's not a problem. You don't have to be Jewish to get to heaven. You have to be a moral and ethical person. That's how you get to heaven. And how? What are the 7? So there are 7 Noahide laws. In fact, in the United States today, there's a Noahide movement. And I think there's probably 500,000 people who follow the Noahide laws. And they...
So that raises an interesting question. As a Jew, I'm required to observe to fulfill 613 commandments. Right. Can I opt out of that and just go for the 7?
The 7, right? So the answer is, you really can't, right? Because the Jewish people we entered into a covenant with God, so we can't no backsies. But before you so haphazardly give up, what really is good for you, short-term pleasure, right? Is understand the reward you get in heaven is based on the amount of effort you need to put in. So a non-Jew keeps their 7 commandments, and a Jew keeps their 613 commandments, or however many they can do. And we have a discount because we only buy wholesale, And, today you could probably do a maximum of 277 or something like that, 281 maybe. And it's actually,
and that's because some of the commandments are for women only.
Well, no. That's because some of the commandments you need a temple to have.
Yeah.
And we don't have a temple. Now, in there are some commandments that are specifically for women. There's some commandments specifically for men.
That's why you couldn't keep
you couldn't
all
even
613.
But even the 613, more than half nowadays cannot be done. They just don't apply. Not that the mitzvahs, God forbid, are canceled, heaven forbid, but just we're lacking a temple, so we can't bring an offering in the temple.
Right. Good.
Right. So that can't be done. So there's a group of, I think it's 281. It's actually called Sefer Mitzvahs HaKatzah, the book of the abridged mitzvahs that writes actually how many commandments, right? It divides it by positive commandments and negative commandments. how many there are. I think maybe 271, maybe 77 positive and 194 don't do's that are possible to do nowadays. But in order to do all those, you have to be a man, a woman, married, divorced, all at the same time. So obviously, one person can't do them all. That's why we need the entire Jewish people, because all the Jews need to be involved with this in order to make it happen. So at that point in time, right? So at that point in time, what happens is that we could do what we can do, but that's it. But now to get to heaven, right? So now it depends what share in heaven you're going to get. So obviously the person who keeps 271 commandments is obviously put a lot more effort than the person who has 7. So everyone gets rewarded based on what they put in. So if you want to live, you're happy living in your house in Carrollton, or you want to live in a mansion, you get a choice to pick. Which one do you want? And remember, your house in heaven is for eternity. So it is.
I see. You're saying, do you want to pick your house in this world or the mansion in the world to come?
Right.
Yeah.
Or even in the world to come. Right? Someone who keeps 7 Noahide laws, they come to heaven, they get nice place to live, everything is great. Right? But they're going to go down Mansion Row, right? Then you see these big estates and say, hey, I want to get one of those. Says, well, you had to be Jewish. You didn't opt in. So you made a choice. This is your choice. Right? And so we have to live with that choices. So I'm not so fast to give it up. I understand the short term.
Yeah, fair. That's good. Good answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So once we understand that, once we understand that we have to go ahead and we have to do our commandments, right? So now, where are the 6 Noahide laws where they mentioned or where they alluded to in the Torah?
And right? You're saying somewhere other than the graph we're all looking at on page 53. Okay.
Right. The graph that we're looking on page 53 is not in the Torah, right? Thank you, Art Scroll Masorah Publishing, for putting it here in a nice little box so we can kind of see what it is. But where are they alluded to? So the Talmud, Tractate Sanhedrin, goes ahead and says the following things. It says the following. It's Tractate Sanhedrin 56a, like the bottom line. Tana Rabbanan, our rabbis learned, Sheva mitzvahs nastavu b'nei Noach. There were 7 commandments that were commanded to the children of Noach. Dinim, establishing courts. Ubirkas Hashem.
Oh, just a sec. You're going through the 7 right now.
Yeah.
So before, is there a significance in the Talmud that you're reading of the order?
Sure.
Because it's not the same order that is in Art Scroll's graph in the Chumash.
Correct. Right, but
nor would it be the order I would naturally think to put them in. Not that anybody's asking me.
Okay.
So that's why I'm asking.
I mean, why would it start off with laws? I would think that for a world that would be very important.
Yeah, but if you look even at our 613, number 1 is know there's a God, which in Art Scroll they have it as number 2.
Or idolatry is number 1, not to worship other gods.
Right, but that's that in the 10 Commandments, isn't that number 3?
Idolatry is number 2.
Idolatry is number 2. Okay, know there's a God is 1.
1, right?
Idolatry is 2, and then
don't take God's name in vain, which is not part of the 7 Noahide laws.
So what is blessing the divine name? What is that? When
it says blessing they want to write blasphemy, but we don't even want to write that. God forbid that somebody's like.
So that's like don't take the Lord's name in vain.
Well, no, it's cursing God. Okay. And blasphemy is more right. Not taking God's name in vain, but I would call it a more subtle commandment. Good. This is blasphemy means blasphemy, not.
I'm not going to ask for an example.
Yes, thank you. And in the Talmud, actually, it's a whole discussion that in the Jewish court, that you have to go ahead and you have to repeat what the person says. And they said, well, then we're going to blaspheme God's name again. What happens? Right? Talmud, it's a whole discussion, like, how does that go down? And they say, well, this person is accused of saying, right? We don't want to hear it.
Good.
Okay, so this is what it says. Dinim, right, which means laws, which I could understand. It's a strong case to make it number one because the world, in order to function, has to have law and order. Right? You see when there are wars that are going on, right, that's not law and order. And an unjust war is even worse.
Or in even some of the cities in the United States where there's no laws.
Right, correct. Or, right, that they go ahead and they, crimes under, I don't know, what is it, under $25, don't, we're not going to prosecute you, or under $50, right? But that's ridiculous.
So under $900.
Over $900?
Yeah, in certain states.
Wow, that's amazing, right? And let's imagine how long those stores are going to remain open. And then they yell, how could you leave us? They say, well, you give my food, my goods away for nothing. Right? So the most important job of a government, by the way, is law and order. Right?
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we live in Texas. I'm sorry.
Right,
this is not a political channel.
No politics. Right? Three things we don't talk about in a mixed company. We talk about the other two. So politics, we won't talk about. So it goes ahead. But that's even why when you have a person like a Putin, why do his people like him? People like him because he provides law and order. Right? There's not anarchy. Right? And people need to live in a place of law and order. So you have dinim, you have laws. Okay? You have, right, civil laws. Birkas Hashem, going in, again, we call it blessing, quote unquote, the divine name, right? We know what it means, the opposite, but we don't even want to say it. Avodah Zarah, no idolatry. Gila Arayis, no sexual immorality. Shvichas Tamim, which is murder. Go ahead.
So I'm debating, should I let you finish and then...
Okay, let's read
go
through
them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you have Vigezel, which is stealing, theft. Ve'ever Menachai is the seventh and final one that became the latest after Noah. So 1656 years or 57 years later, eating a limb from a live animal. So those are the seven. Okay? Those are the seven that everyone agrees to.
So both on don't murder.
Right.
And on sexual immorality. We know there's different levels.
Right.
So does this infer all levels?
So on that becomes the devils are in the detail, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's why for the Noahide laws, there are different laws than there are for Jews. Right? The subtleties that are there for non-Jews, or there for Jews, many more subtleties as opposed to the non-Jews. That there are less.
Okay. And then one more, you said
don't
steal.
Right, don't steal, yeah.
But I don't recall that being
in the Ten Commandments. So it actually is. And actually the Hebrew word is lo sigzol, which is really the third one on the ones between man and man. So that's number 8. Generally people would number them. But the Talmud says that stealing is kidnapping. Oh. And here it's not stealing, it's robbery.
So those are different.
Those are really different ones. Right? So you have, again, dinim, which is setting up courts, law and order. Birkas Hashem, quote unquote, blessing God's name. Avodah Zarah, idolatry. Gila Arayis, sexual immorality. Shvichas Damim, murder. Gezel, stealing. Ve'ever Menachai, eating a limb from the live animal. And then it continues on with other sages adding in other ones that they think are whatever important. So then the Talmud asked, well, how do you know this? Right now, already in 56b. Says Rabbi Yochanan, because the verse states, Genesis chapter 2, verse 16. Vayitzav Hashem Elokim al ha'adam lemar mikol eitz hagan achol tochel. Which means, and God, Hashem Elokim, commanded on the person, saying, from every tree in the garden you may eat. So he says as follows, and God commanded, this is talking about laws, right? That there are commandments, right? As it says later on in Genesis chapter 18, verse 19, Ki yedativ, because I know Lamana Yitzave, it's funny if he's going to command his sons, right? Keep the ways of the Lord to do righteous and justice. So that's why we know that in commanded, this refers to laws, right? Functional. It says God commanded. That is Berkas Hashem. That's, again, blessing, quote unquote, blessing God's name. And as it says, he who blasphemes the name of the Lord shall be put to death. That's Leviticus 24:16. And then it says Elokim. What is a second name of God? Right? This is idolatry. As it says, you shall not have other gods in front of me. Al ha'adam, on the person. This refers to murder. As it says, he who sheds the blood of man, by man his blood shall be shed. Right? That's Genesis 9, chapter 9, verse 6. Lamer, saying, that is referring to sexual immorality. As it says, a verse in Jeremiah, chapter 3, verse 1, Lamar hey nishal ises ishtai, saying, if a man sends his wife, and she goes from him, and she becomes another man, will that land not be greatly polluted? But you have played the harlot with many lovers. And then it says, and from all, right, this is verse 17 now, Ume'etzadas tovara, and from all the trees, where is this? Right, from all the trees in the garden that you can eat, but you can't have from stealing. You may eat, right? Achol tochel, this says it twice. You shall eat, and you can't eat a limb from a live animal. And so that is how the Talmud says that we learn out from Genesis chapter 2, verse 16 and 17. We learn out that it's alluding to these 6/7 Noahide laws. And that is a source of these 7 Noahide laws.
Would you say that all 7 are of equal value?
There is a hierarchy because sometimes a person has to go ahead, and a person you have 2 of them that come to you, right? And now if they come to you, right, if they come to you, which one should be more careful not to do? Or let's say you have to do one. Let's say you have to do one.
You have to murder.
What?
Well, we don't consider killing in war murder.
Correct. That's not murder.
Okay. It's not, murder is not just simply taking a life.
Right. Correct. Right. There are many different types of murders. And what murders are we responsible? What murders are we not responsible for? Right. All those things that come about, right, we have to make sure that we're not doing different levels, right? Well, what are we commanded? What are we not commanded to do? And how do we rank them? I tell people, it says no idolatry, no murder. Well, let's say somebody ties you up and rolls you down a hill. And you can't say, in Jewish law, you have to, for idolatry, adultery, and murder, for Jews, you have to give up your life. Now, let's say you can't, right? They don't give you a choice. Well, we'll shoot you. What they do is they tie you up and they roll you down a hill. And at the bottom of the hill, On the bottom of the right side is little baby. And you're going to roll over that baby. You will kill that baby. Or on the left side is an idol, and you'll end up being prostrated to an idol. And the only thing you can control is
which direction you're rolling.
Which direction you're going to roll. What do you do?
Well, I mean, we learned that all of the mitzvahs can be superseded for saving a life.
Okay, but also for idolatry, you have to give up your life. If you committed idolatry against your will, or even willingly, you're not going to just go and kill yourself afterwards saying, I shouldn't have done it, so now I'm going to kill myself. You have to kill yourself before you do it. But once you've done it, the Jewish court can kill you, but you can't kill yourself.
Oh, interesting. For any of them?
For any of them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because then killing yourself is self-murder.
Okay. But we would agree saving the life is more important.
So, what I would tell you is prove it to me. Meaning, in Judaism, right, when you discuss these things, you can't just...
It feels good.
Yeah, that's what I feel. Or everybody knows. Who's everybody? You know, I went to lunch this week with somebody. He goes, well, I decide my morality. I said, and where did you get your morality from? I said, you were raised with it, right? Yeah, okay. And so you're doing really what you were taught. I said, so is it really your morality or just the morality you were taught that is moral? So the only way to have real morality is to know what does God say, not what does Bentzi Epstein decide.
Good.
And that's a very strong argument. We don't understand. And I said, so you got to know.
So you're looking for a proof outside of
it feels right.
What we were taught. What is the proof of what we were taught?
Correct.
I don't know.
Welcome to my world, Tom. As a Talmudic scholar, this is what we spend all day doing. Okay, these are the discussions we have every single day. And anything you say, you have to be able to prove. You have to be able to stand up to it. You have to be able to go ahead and to back it up. And have your chavrusa, your study partner across the table who wants nothing better but to throttle you and say what you're saying is nonsense. And it's rigorous debate. And you have to stand there defending it. Hours at a time. So I will show you something that I think is a cool way to look at it. If you take a look at the 10 Commandments, we got 10 Commandments on 2 tablets. Why didn't God just take the 10 Commandments, turn them from landscape to portrait, and stick them all on 1 tablet?
Or use a bigger tablet.
Right. Why does he need 2 tablets?
Because he's trying to teach us that certain commandments pertain to the relationship between man to man, and the others are man to God. Okay, good.
So that's one answer given, right? That the tablet is 1 tablet between the commandments between man and man, 1 commandment between man and God. What is interesting is when I asked you what was the first commandment, what did you tell me?
I told you number 1 from the man to God side.
Aha, right? And if you always look at the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, everyone always puts.
Because they don't go 1, 1A, 1B, 1B.
Right. That's very good. So I would like to contend and teach you something quite fascinating. I contend that there are 2 number 1s. There are 2 number 2s. There are 2 number 3s. There are 2 number 4s, and there are 2 number 5s. And number 1, when somebody asks me what's number 1, I ask them, well, which side? And that's why God put 2 tablets to tell you that there's 2 number 1s. I call it 1X, 1Y, 2X, 2Y. And when I was to ask you which one is more important, So in Judaism, we always put them on the right, what's more important. Which means that the commandments between man and God, when Moses came down the mountain, were on Moses' right side. But for the people, Jewish people that were looking at Moses when he came down, what was on their right side?
Man to man.
Man to man. And God is telling us how you treat your man to man is more important to me than how you treat me. In fact, another proof to this. How many words are there in on the commandments between man to man? It's like 141, 161, maybe 161. And the commandments between man to man, how many words are on that side? 22.
Wow.
Little lopsided. So why? So if there are 184 words, let's just say, so it's 92 words, do 92 on the right, 92 on the left, make it balanced. But God doesn't want it balanced. If there are only 22 words and the tablets were the same size, so the commandments between man and man had a much bigger font.
Well, or you could argue the between man and God are more important because they're more weighty. There's more of them, words, letters.
Except wrap a smaller font. Yeah. So when the Jewish people are straining to look at the commandments, Moses comes down, what's the first commandment they're going to see?
Don't murder.
Don't murder. The second, no adultery. Third, no kidnapping. Fourth, no bearing false witness. 5, don't desire. That would be the first one they would see way before they would ever.
That's interesting. I could give you the order on the man to God side, but I have to struggle on the man to man side on the order.
So it's a fascinating thing, right? And God is trying to teach us that we need to go ahead, and we need to really pick up our game on the man to man side. Now, also that God numbered them, and really there's one idea. So, for example, like the first central idea is God. So, how does that play itself out between man and God? I am Hashem, your God. You have to know that there's a God. How does it play it out with man and man? Don't murder, because man is created in the image of God. The second central thing is when you make a covenant, you can't bring somebody else into it. So the covenant is between us and God. So how does that play out between man and God? No idolatry. You can't bring in a third partner. What's that a man to man? When you have a spouse, you can't bring in a third spouse. No adultery. Right? Adultery is you made a covenant with your wife. Now you can't bring in another woman into that relationship.
But how does that, prior to Rabbi Gershon, we could have more than one wife? Because
the covenant, but a wife can't have more than one.
Right.
Right. And so that is because the covenant, when a man, and by the way, before the sin in the garden, women were allowed to marry 2 men as well. But after the sin in the garden, one of the punishments for the woman was that she can't marry 2 husbands. But a man still can't. So when a man marries a woman, he's not saying, I'm marrying you to the exclusion of everybody else. The woman is saying to the man, I'm marrying you to the exclusion of everybody else. That's why the adultery they really talk about is a woman. It all depends on the woman's status. If the woman is married and she has a different spouse, that's adultery. Number 3 is don't take God's name in vain. Number 3 between man and man is no kidnapping. Because when you're taking the image of God that's in that person and you kidnap them, they're living their life in vain because they can't do what they want. You're holding them. Shabbat is number 4. Number 4 is don't bear false witness. We celebrate Shabbat because God is the creator of the world. So we testify to that. So now not bearing false witness is flying when you don't keep Shabbat, you're denying God as the creator of the world. Honoring your parents, number 5. Don't desire something else. You might understand that your parents were given you by God and they're exactly what you need. And everyone always desires somebody else's parents. Well, Johnny's mom down the block lets him stay out till 10 o'clock. I want to stay out 10 o'clock to write it. I'm sure you've never heard that, or you ever did that, I'm sure. But you could understand why somebody might do that. Now, so really there are 5 main ideas, and they're put in order of importance, starting with knowing there's a God, right? That's rule number 1. So now if you take a look, don't murder is on line 1. No idolatry, no adultery are on line 2. So line 1 would trump line 2. So that would be my proof. If somebody asked, if you have a choice of murder or idolatry, I would tell you don't murder, because that's the highest level.
That's good.
But that would be where my proof would come from.
Very good.
Okay. Man, 7 Noahide laws for the Gentiles, 613 for the Jews. Both could get to heaven, but their seating is going to be different. So you just have to ask your question, Tom. Do you want to sit at the 50-yard line or in the skyboxes? What do you?
Okay. No, that I like your analogy, but let me sharpen the question just a little bit for my limited understanding. So I have, whether you want to call it 271 or whatever mitzvahs, and let's say I do half of them. So I'm at 114 or whatever versus 7.
Right, 135 actually.
135 versus 7.
Right.
But I've only fulfilled half of the eligible mitzvahs that I could fulfill.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still way above 7. So how does that play into it?
Excellent. Our podcast is ending. I'll see you next week, Tom. All righty. No, we got to go. But before we go, all these questions is in God a country. What were you created with? What's the ability? How were you raised? Right? What were you given? What skills were you given? It's a way more complicated question.
Okay.
And so,
will we in a future podcast be able to cover it?
Maybe.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it's up to you. Write in with your questions, and we'll help formulate the rabbi's strategy going forward.
Tom, have a great day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
More next time.
You've been listening to Breakneck Through the Bible by Torch Dallas. Visit torchdallas.net for more mind-expanding episodes that will forever change how you read the Bible.